All right. Why don't we get started? My name is Dave Ashheim, and my partner here is Catherine. Catherine runs our marketing, and we found that with mobile, just because you've got the technology doesn't mean that it's going to work. So we really need a marketing angle to get people to opt in. And we've got a lot of special guests here. One of our special guests is, and who will unmute later on, is Jack Wexler. Jack Wexler has been working with us for probably a year or two, and he's a very adventurous guy when he likes to try all kinds of new technologies. And Jack is at Goodwill Industries, and Jack just gave a nice little presentation about what he's doing with mobile and BrainShark and Train Myself at the MLearn conference. So if all of you want to get a copy of my presentation today and Jack's, I'm sure Jack wouldn't mind if us sending out his presentation. Drop us an email or just reply to the one that you got or send one to dave@trainmyself.com and we will send you two presentations. The one that we're going to go through today and then Jack's from Goodwill, which is a really terrific presentation too. In terms of timing, let's try to get through this material in about 20 minutes. We're going to break it into three pieces. One, we've got the big trends that we're seeing with mobile. Then we will do Q&A. And then we will talk about Train by Sell, but we'll break that into two pieces so it's not a sales presentation about our company. It's all about our findings with mobile, and then Q&A, and then, as I said, then we'll show you the back end, and we'll show you what system that we have developed to try to solve these problems. And if you have time, stay for that. So we've got 30 slides. We're going to try to get through these really quickly. So make your questions, type your questions in the little chat window, and we'll answer them as we go or at the end, and we'll blow through this stuff really fast because I know everybody's really busy. So let's go on to the first one. Okay, so here's your exercise, everybody. Take out your cell phone and follow the instructions. So we want to make this very interactive. And you go to send a new text message, and you type in the to window, 56512. That's just like a phone number. So instead of texting your daughter, text 56512. And in the message part, put train. And the first person that gets something back, type it in the little chat window, and you win a digital trip around the world or something digital. Jack, of course, Jack from Goodwill is going to be the fastest. That's not fair, Jack, but that's okay. Anybody else get something back? It should say, click to visit our mobile site with a link. All right. Okay, Christine, great. And go ahead, Christine, while I'm talking, you can go ahead and click that link. The point is that anytime, anywhere, you can provide access to content or training material, and that's what we think is just so important about the whole mobile landscape. Okay, let's go on. So a couple seconds about us. We've been doing this for 5 years. We've morphed many, many times as we found out from the mobile landscape what's working and what's not working. We thought that apps were going to be the big thing. It's turning out that's not the big thing. We provide cloud-based solutions, and we're talking to thousands of companies about what they need. So we have a really good sense now for where companies are, and for the most part, they're just getting off the drawing board right now. So all of you that are saying, I'm really behind the curve, you're not. You're ahead of the curve if you're attending this session. All right. These 5 things were the big obstacles that we faced. And we would talk to people like Jack and Christine and others and say, hey, what about mobile? And the folks would say, well, the screen is so small. I've got Droid. I've got Windows phones. It's very problematic. Maybe I didn't have cell phone reception 5 years ago. And security was a bit of an issue as well. So what we've found is that mobile has really evolved a lot differently than we expected. We thought that e-learning was going to go to M-learning, that mobile learning was going to be just really an extension of e-learning. It's turning out that on a cell phone, it's just not very practical. On a tablet, I think it can be done, but a 30-minute course, 60-minute course using one of a Captivate or something is just not going to look good on a phone, and people are not going to want to do it. So that was a big misperception that we have. We also found out that if you make it really easy, employees will do 10 times more training than they do now, but it's got to be fun and easy and dropped in their lap. Otherwise, just because you make an app available to them does not mean they're going to use it. The third thing we learned is you cannot just be one platform. So if you're going to go down the route of building apps, which we don't really suggest, but if you do, you're going to have an app for every device. Some people still have BlackBerries. 25% of the world has a BlackBerry. So it's got to be operating system agnostic. And then you've heard me talk about this already. We've found that most of our experience is in mobile websites because you can update them really quickly. Apps have not been a very effective tool that we've seen. It's too expensive, takes too long to build. And then the final thing that we found is you really need to prompt and nudge your employees. Sure, you can put an e-learning course and turn it into M-learning, but unless you break it into little bite-sized chunks and let people access it little bits at a time, they're not going to do it. But if you break it into little pieces and you remind them through emails and text messages to click this link, I think they'll do it. These are the three basic tools you've got at your disposal: mobile website / QR codes, apps, and text messaging or targeted email. That's really what you're looking at. There's a lot of fancy things coming out with RFID and Bluetooth and little detectors that can push information. But in the training world, that's a little space age at the moment. So we suggest starting with one of these things. So what are the big drivers? There's about 4 or 5 big drivers. Cost is the first thing. People are coming to us saying, our department has been cut over the last 5 years. We don't have the same people. I don't have a budget to fly everybody to Savannah, Georgia for my training. What can I do? I got to do something to extend my learning into the field. Is there something we can do with mobile? So cost is the first thing that people ask us about. Second thing is both time on the part of you, the folks that are putting on this training, and the part of the employees. If it takes you 3 months to build an app or 2 or 3 months to take your Captivate content and convert it into something, you're just not going to do it. Everybody is extremely busy in the training world with budgets being cut. The people I know in training are busier today than they were 4 or 5 years ago. So it's got to be, whatever you do has got to be super easy for you, and it has to be super easy for an employee. If you run a retail store and want people to go back in the back room and take an e-learning course, they're just probably not going to do it. They don't want to do it, and it's just going to be problematic. Then, of course, we have the issue of delivery. Do you deliver it to a computer in your store or a laptop or a Droid device? Or how are you going to deliver this content? And we've found that with Droid owning more than 50% of the market now, and with tablets of all shapes and sizes coming, if you don't make your content and your mobile learning agnostic as to the type of device, it's just not going to be successful. You have got to make it such that I can look at it on a computer, I can look at it on a tablet, I can look at it on my Kindle, or I can be emailed or texted the link, or I can scan a QR code. Any way I want to access it, I want to be able to access it from whatever device I happen to want. And this statistic you might think is crazy, but I think for some of us, especially for people like Catherine and myself that are in the tech world, checking your phone 150 times a day, it's just becoming such an extension. In the last year and a half, we've seen big changes in this, where people, even when we would go to ASCD and SHRM conferences, a year and a half ago, Catherine and I it would be a little bit of a struggle to get people to kind of agree to the concept of using your phone, even your personal phone, for work stuff. Now that balance between work and social has blurred, And it's just becoming the go-to device for so many people. This is a phrase we've read about a lot in books that have been written about mobile, and I think it sums up all that we're finding from our clients. It's got to be just when I want it, and it's got to be tailored to me. I don't want to go to this main menu where there's 50 things, and it's got to be just enough. I am not going to do a 60-minute course on my phone. I don't want 100 pages of text. Give me the highlights. Some people call it snack learning. And we've found there's a group of people in the training learning field that really resent this slide. They don't want to provide just enough. They feel if they've spent their life and career building out an e-learning module, and it's a 60-minute or 2-hour module, they just do not want to break it into little bite-sized chunks. And we're finding that that resistance needs to just fall away because the users are just not doing it. So just in time, just enough, just for me is what we're seeing as a very classic way to look at how you can think about mobile and training. So we've got another 5 or 10 minutes worth of some slides here. Let's talk about these. The number one thing people are calling us about is corporate training. I work for a training department, and I want to train my techs how to do something. I was just on the phone an hour ago with a company that is a big pharmaceutical company, and they want to train people how to use various pieces of software that are important. So basic corporate training, but on the lighter side. That's probably the number one thing we see. The second thing that we see is how can I motivate and stimulate sales, and how can I put these tools in the hands of my salespeople? So we have a lot of clients that use the pushing of texting or the pushing of email along with a link, just like you see on the left-hand side. Click here, and then you come to a landing page where there's a video about a new price or a new product or how something is working. I was just talking to a visiting nurse association earlier this morning. They want to push comments about new procedures in the medical field out to their visiting nurses. So they want to do that every week. So the idea that I can push content either to my employees or to salespeople, it's something that is resonating with an awful lot of our clients. Performance review, how can I remind people that have taken a course? They just started at the company. They just took a course. They're transferring into a new department. How can I send them periodic reminders? And what we're finding is that if you send someone a text or an email with a short URL to a page that they can look at on their phone with no downloading, and it takes them 3 to 5 minutes to do this little performance review, we've had clients tell us that that they're seeing a 10 times increase in interaction. So break your post-course material into little bite-sized chunks. Get permission to either email or send it out to people, and then you can track results, and you'll see a big improvement. Quite a few companies that are manufacturing companies will put QR codes on either their equipment in their factory. So if I need to know how to work this machine or replace the blades or something, I can just scan on a tablet or my phone. So using QR codes that go right to a page that explains how to do something is becoming a very popular tool with mobile. Then we've got other companies. We've got some large automotive companies that will use texting and email for breaking news. There's a price change. I need everybody to fill out the compliance report by the end of the day. There is a product recall or a product change, or a competition is just doing something, or there's a health recall or something. That is, it's amazing. If you have everybody's email, you have everybody's text, you send them a little note, You click a link, you go to a page that explains it, and they can look at it when they want to. That is not really maybe training, but it's still a great use of mobile. And then we've got an awful lot of folks that use this for emergency information. I was talking to a big ship repair association on the East Coast, and they have all kinds of issues with scaffolding problems and repair issues that they don't really want to send out in an email. It's just too important. And so they are now sending out these notices by text or email with links to pages that can load fast, that allow people to read content and then allow people to comment and answer some questions and give their own feedback. HR, Catherine went to SHRM, and I think quite a few of you folks on the call were down in Orlando. And I bet we are seeing, probably a third of our clients these days are using these mobile tools for some kind of HR. Maybe it's open enrollment, where I'm getting notified about open enrollment, and I am able to find and view all of the open enrollment documents. Or we were just talking to a big technology company yesterday. They're having big meetings with their employees about big changes in their company. So they're going to load all this content about changes in management, and they're going to have some videos, all accessible on the person's phone. Even things as to attracting potential hires is becoming a popular thing. So we have quite a few clients that will allow their potential hires to text in and sign up for text alerts about types of categories of jobs. So when a job opens up, they'll automatically get a text or an email that a job is opening up. So mobile can be everything from, job notices to heavy-duty training. And then onboarding. A lot of folks will post signs around the company. If you're new to the company, dial this phone number or text in, hear from senior executives, watch videos. And this is especially effective in not only in the United States, but if you're a big pharmaceutical company or a big manufacturing company and you've got operations around the world, how great is it for that anybody that's in India or Spain or South America to be able to either call a number, a local number, or go on their phone and watch a welcome video and hear from the HR director, hear from the training manager. So onboarding is becoming a really popular way to use mobile. We just had a Fortune 500 company come to us saying that their onboarding is very boring. What can we do? So they are now using texting to create all kinds of little interactive games during the first week. And then they're allowing people to go on their phone to a mobile web page where they can fill out forms and answer questions and take little scavenger hunts. So it's become very interactive and a brand new way to communicate with people that are new to the company. Okay, a few mobile trends, and then we'll open it up for questions. So you've probably seen the 70-20-10 model a lot, and I think this theory of mobile is it tries to bridge the gap. Not everybody is going to classroom training, and that's maybe not the most effective way anyway. I think a lot of people are doing studies now that are saying if I can break my learning into little 10-minute segments, it's going to be something I retain a lot longer. And that only works if you can drop it in their lab and let them do it while they're at lunch or commuting or whenever they have a few extra minutes. Second big trend is this snack learning. Tiny bite-sized chunks of information or content that's stored on the platform that is divided into little pieces so it's easy to find on my phone. Then people can learn and at their own pace, and it's very convenient. It's a great time management saver. And of course, you, the organization, can log on to the back end of any of these companies that provide these services and track results and track progress. The third trend is this anytime, anywhere. And if you think about the 150 emails a day, I mean, it's 150 touches a day of our phone, we do not obviously need to look at our phone 150 times a day. But we are now so conditioned to do that, right or wrong. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's how we are all behaving. That's how you have to adapt your training and communicating. If your employees are used to looking at their own personal device 150 times a day, if you can convince them to also use that for your own refreshers and performance support, you're going to have a much more successful rollout. A little example of this is I was recently renting a car. I think it was at Enterprise at an airport in maybe Chicago. And as we walk around the car with the Enterprise guy, you know, you're looking for dents and things. He takes out his phone and he turns on the flashlight, and he's looking because the garage is a little dark. He's using his own personal device to look for dents and scrapes. So I said, well, is that a company-provided device? And he said, no. And I said, well, how do you feel about using your own personal device for a work-related task? And he said, well, it's a lot easier than either moving the car to the light or going into the office and getting a big, huge flashlight. I don't mind using my phone. It's making my job easier, and I just don't mind doing it. Now, maybe that's not the case with all of your employees, but I do think that's more and more of a trend. People are not reacting negatively to using their own tablet, their own phone, if it's improving their own job and making their job easier. Apps versus mobile websites. There are clearly times where an app is appropriate. If you need lots of content stored, maybe the person is not going to have access to the internet. Those are two good examples. Or maybe if you need some really sophisticated interaction. But other than that, we're finding that the ability to build out mobile web sites and have people click a link to go right to a specific page is typically trumping the idea of building an app. You know, apps can cost $10,000 at the low end up to $100,000, $150,000. I was just up in Seattle talking to a big technology company, and they have just developed an app. And my contact was saying he's a little unhappy that they went down this path because it's very hard to update the content in the app. And you don't really see statistics as quickly as you do with a mobile website. And so I think the trend is much more towards the cheaper, the faster, let's try mobile websites and put our content there and then track usage. So, summary, I think we're finding with mobile you're going to get a lot more training and learning. You're clearly going to get more communication. People are willing to take quizzes and compliance and testing because it's almost game-like. It's a silly little thing, but we found that if you load a page of content, maybe it's a PowerPoint, maybe it's a video, and you ask some questions, you will get more people watching the video or reading the content if you ask questions afterwards than if you don't. I didn't think that that was possible. That just doesn't seem like human nature to me, but it almost becomes a little game, a little contest, and so we're finding that you're going to get a lot more testing. Clearly, your employees that opt in to do this are going to like it. There are going to be some employees that don't want to do it on their phone. That's fine. Every URL is available on a computer, so it's not something that's an either or. You clearly want to make something that's easy to get started, and mobile is something that you can start in a couple of days. And it's great to run reports and analytics to see are people doing it. And when compared with building out a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 app, it's by far the least expensive. So why don't we open it up for questions, and if you want to ask your questions in the little chat window, you can. Catherine's going to try to unmute all. It may be too noisy sometimes if we unmute, there's a lot of background noise. So we'll try to unmute. Jack, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Great. Yeah, I can hear you, Jack. Why don't you've been doing this mobile thing for a while. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about you and Goodwill, and then you might want to just kind of comment on some of these things and put it into context for people that are like you.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Many of you know Goodwill has a lot of stores in the country and all over the world. Right now we have 3,000 stores. We have 110,000 employees. And anybody's familiar with retail, every square inch of retail space is precious. And there's usually only one computer in a store, and that's usually for transaction processing. So the ability to learn is very difficult. So, we want to look at a strategy where we can train more employees, give them more performance support, also collect data from them and disseminate data and collaborate. And, that's where the mobile world is going, those 5 different buckets. And, we've been using Train by Cell to, launch a lot of this training and performance support where, we use their mobile platform to house our trainings. And you can develop your training, and, we do it in Brainshark, you can do it in Lectora, you can do it in Storyline. And then I'm hearing a lot of background noise, but so we're using that for performance support and training. We've also found there's a lot of value in text messaging. And Goodwill has 165 autonomous operations, and each of them have a CEO. And one CEO suggested that, hey, it'd be great for people, in the stores to text him ideas on how to improve performance. So he started this little campaign, and any activity that people suggest that they implement, they give a prize out. We send out emergency alerts on weather, because of weather, to our folks, where you could be losing electricity in your house, but you have your cell phone. And also the other thing is that new generations coming up, we're calling the app generation. They hate to talk on their phones, they hate email, but they love text messaging. So we're leveraging, Train by Cell's powerful text messaging feature to, gather information and send out information.
Great, thanks. If anybody has some questions about the mobile trends and what we're seeing, obstacles, why don't you type it in the little chat window, and Catherine or I, or we'll call on Jack or anybody else that wants to speak. And after we do a little Q&A, then we'll move to the solution that we've come up with, and you'll be able to play with it on your phone. So before we move that way, anybody want to type out a little question in the meeting chat?
Dave, I would love to hear if anybody's into the mobile world, maybe not using your platform, or just what they're doing in the mobile world so we can all understand.
Yeah, that would be great. If anybody is doing anything with mobile, we can unmute your phone, but make a note in the little meeting chat first. Okay, that's a good one. If someone can't complete training in one session. Yeah, there's lots of ways to structure that. It can be where the system will remember exactly where you are, or it could be where you don't want them to do that you want them to do it all in one sitting. So that is just totally up to you. Just like e-learning, where you can do that, you could do the same thing with mobile.
If I could take a stab at that for Leola. Yes, Leola, again, the tools that we use to create training, they have bookmarking capability. So, again, we use Train by Cell, the mobile website, where we just put all the training on. So that gives them the access to get to the training. And then once they get to the platform, then they click on a link, they go to the training, they take their training. And if they don't finish it, they come back and take it later. And the authoring package basically bookmarks it.
Yeah. Great question. How about another one from somebody?
Absolutely, Leola. The cool thing about the mobile training is very easy to track the activities that are going on the platform, especially if you have them taking trainings and answering quizzes and taking polls. It's very easy to track that in the back end. So you would be able to track who completed the test and who hasn't completed it. You should also be able to track whether they got it wrong or right. So all those are great information to have, especially if you're utilizing mobile training for your learning development.
Jack, before we move on to the demo, at the mLearn conference, you had a couple of slides that were really awesome about how do you even get started down the path of mobile. So maybe you could just, a lot of the people that are on this conference, we might have just met them at SHRM or mLearn. What's your advice for taking either the baby steps, and what do you recommend to begin this journey? Because it's definitely a journey.
Well, again, you kind of mentioned it by saying don't start and try to find a killer app. It's going to cost you a fortune, and as Dave mentioned, updates are going to be problems, different devices. And I really started my mobile journey with Train by Cell because I saw how easy it is to create and manage a mobile website and how easy it is to populate it with, training and performance support, documents and trainings. So that's one way I would suggest is, Dave, I'm not sure what your business model is these days, but, a small pilot with a small group and find out what's working, what's not working. With Goodwill right now, I have 6 senior executives during their cohort project where they're really looking at different opportunities in the different areas and job roles and seeing what would lend itself to mobile.
Yeah, right. Well,
this way, sorry, Dave, but, if you don't go the way of the app, unless you found this killer app, it's really not expensive to get started. And then, you find a small area, find a few training items, a few performance support items, and then show and try to measure the success. And I forgot one other point. The way we started also is we created 6 trainings for our CEOs. Again, we have 165 CEOs. We have 3,000 board members. So why not create trainings for these people? So if we, and a lot of people loved it because as the CEO, they could take it anywhere.
So if you guys have somebody or you guys have some of your team that you'd like to show the actual demo of the platform to, let us know. Shoot us an email. I'll put Dave's email here again, and we could schedule one for your team, for you and your team. Dave, did you want to say something else before we end it?
Well, thanks for taking time to learn a little bit about where mobile's going. And if anybody wants to learn more, just send us an email. There's our address, info or Dave at Train by Cell. And we will send out this PowerPoint and Jack's from his mLearn conference to everybody that attended. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.